What's up guys, Jooji here, and I'm bringing you another drawing video. In this composition, I'm going to be looking at the portraits from Fire Emblem Gaiden and redrawing them. I started off by doing some line drawings, and it was really fast, and I didn't... I quickly started sketching out Celica, and then went on to Leon because her hair wasn't as fun to draw. I was really just trying to have fun with these drawings at first, just because I was taking a break from my other drawing. They were quite fun to redraw, so I had no problem doing all of the members in Celica's army, and I wanted to continue that with the members of Alm's army right after. It was a nice distraction from what I was already doing, because it's just me redrawing the angles and the faces one-to-one. They were just the same. I was just drawing them and using them as references. It wasn't anything too extravagant or hard. I was just following the same contours. So that was easy and fun, and ended up looking really nice, just because I like how far you can take these simple drawings. They had a lot of character in them, even though they reused a lot of them. You can see for the White Wing sisters, they all have the same sprite, and also Kamui and Jessie have the same sprite with altered faces. Later on, when I draw the villagers, Tobin, Gray, and Cliff, they also have the same portraits, just altered faces. And if you look at Atlas, he also has the same body as they do. I like how Zeke is in the same position that he was, in the same angle. He's in profile, just like he was in his portrait from the original Fire Emblem game. So I don't remember if it was the exact same sprite. It actually might have been. And it was just transferred over, but I like how they emulated that with Tatiana's sprite. They drew her in profile to kind of make a connection between her and Zeke. And I like the visual connection there. The color schemes were really fun. I really like the one for Valbar in particular, and Leon's is really fun too. I think that they used the colors really nicely in this game. They had a lot of smart ways of just like using the same color that they shaded the skin with to highlight the hair, and using other colors that are like doing highlights in the armor, also in the skin. So they reuse colors in multiple parts of the image, and you end up with this nice image with a lot of saturation but contrasting colors that really define the character. I like how Luthier is one of the only characters with his hand in his portrait, and they also gave him a pose where you can see his hand in Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia, so that was a nice nod to that. I like his pose in this game a lot. I remember it really sticking with me when I first watched a playthrough of Fire Emblem Gaiden. I thought that Luthier and Delthea had really strong designs in Fire Emblem Gaiden already, and it was really interesting how they had completely adapted designs in Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia, where I thought that they were going to be some of the characters that had their designs brought over to look just like they used to. And I'm glad to see. I mean, Hidari's style was not at all like the style used for Fire Emblem Gaiden, and she did a great job at adapting these designs. I redrew Halcyon rather than just reusing the portrait I drew of Noma, because they're different characters. I wanted for them to have at least some distinctions in the way that they're drawn, even if they are slight and incidental, just because that adds a little bit to the character. I think that Halcyon had a really murky color scheme, and the dark browns are actually greens, and it was fun to see how they used these colors to kind of show or to allude to different colors in a way, just by the way that it contrasts with the bright magenta. When I was first drawing them, I actually got confused while I was looking at my references, since they don't have the names lined out, and I confused Rudolph with Masena, and I ended up drawing Masena a lot larger than most of the other characters, and he ended up being slightly larger than Rudolph himself. And I wanted Rudolph in particular to be the largest one because he's one of the main antagonists of the game. And I I think it's really funny that I ended up making Masena as big as I did just because he is an NPC that just shows up for 5 seconds to tell you where your grandpa is in the building. And it wasn't that shocking that he had his own portrait because it is a reused portrait anyways. I think Rudolph also has a reused portrait, but it's altered. I don't think any other portrait with this big hair that Rudolph has a mustache like that. I really like the colors that Jeddah had. Jeddah looks really cool and blue. It's funny that he ended up looking so much smaller than all of the other villains that I drew. But he's a dark magic user, so he doesn't really need all that much physical bulk anyways. Also, Gray ended up being much larger than the other villagers, but I wasn't very concerned with trying to resize him or redraw him, just because this was something that I was drawing for fun. Silk also ended up looking a lot smaller than everyone else, but she is tiny, so I think that's passable. That's the same with Jenny, but Silk is the Silk is still smaller than Jenny. I think that I was pretty happy that I was able to make the white wings pretty consistent in size without having to just duplicate their bodies, just drew them from scratch. And I really like how Jessie and Kamui look. I started using a better way of recording my audio. I just started using the audio recording feature that comes in built in iOS or whatever, instead of using the time-lapse feature in Procreate to get better footage and more close-up high-res footage. So my upcoming videos will have a combination of the Procreate and this higher def footage, since I've been working on these projects simultaneously. Some of the upcoming videos do use footage that I captured before I realized I could be using that feature that's already built into the iPad. It's a really great way for me to concentrate specifically on what I was drawing at the time instead of talking about things in a more general sense. It's really interesting that Nui Baba had a really old man looking sprite, and in one of the translations she is said to be male, but I think that adds to kind of like the mysticism behind Nui Baba as a dark magic user. It's like how Loki doesn't necessarily have to be female. She could be whatever she wants to be because she's a shapeshifter. So I like to think Nui Baba as the same type of vibe as Loki. I really like the alternative skin tones that they have, like the green for Nui Baba, and I like that Nui Baba does have a different expression, and she's like has her teeth and that like nice grin. Nui Baba is very expressive in this game, even though she's covered by her robes. I also like Hestia and Marla's portraits. I like that they're the same as Sonia's, and I don't think anyone else besides Hestia and Marla do use Sonia's portraits, but then they're also altered, and I liked how different all three of the portraits ended up looking at the end. I wasn't trying to make them look... I was just trying to draw them as accurately as possible, but there's inevitably always going to be some changes in them. So I like how one of them ended up looking like they had a longer face than the other, which is like they don't look like the same person. They kind of look like sisters, which is cool. I also like the face markings and the purple hair on them. I think that they have a really nice color scheme going on. Just like Sonia has a really nice color scheme going on too. Last video I only did Alm's army, and this one had not only Alm and Celica's army, but a bunch of the baddies from this game. And when I was choosing the baddies, when I was choosing the antagonists, I based this drawing off of a list of characters on Fire Emblem Wiki, and the list was divided up in Alm's route, Celica's route, NPCs, primary antagonists, secondary antagonists, and tertiary antagonists. And I decided to leave out the tertiary antagonists because there was a lot of reused portraits in there that I didn't necessarily want to do, just because I had already drawn enough and I already wanted to move on to the next thing, because this drawing only started off as a break from the other one. It was never supposed to be its own thing, but I was not upset that it did turn out to be it turned out to be a nice piece in its own right. So I had a lot of fun with that. Some of the new names that I'm looking now that for Celica, it's Bowie, kind of like Bowie, yeah. And I like how Paula's name is Paola, which is like a really common name where I'm from. So it's interesting that they changed it to Paula, which I've never met anyone named Paula. And I like Estuo and Katua. Katua sounds like Katra from She-Ra. I like Atorasu. I like Atorasu for Atlas. I can see how that translates into Atlas. Atorasu. Yeah. I like Din a lot. I'm sure it's pronounced Dean instead of Din, but I like Dean as D-I-N. I'm also, my favorite one out of all of these is Saber as Saver. I'm also going to go through the names of everyone that's in the antagonist list, just because not everyone might know all of the names of the antagonists in the English version, and these are the Japanese names. So Slater is Slade, Dozer is Desai, Tatara is Tatara, and Nui Baba is still Nui Baba, Mara is Marla, and Judah is Jeddah. Masena is Masena, Rudolfuru is Rudolph, and Hark is Halcyon. If you made it to this part of the video, don't forget to leave a like and comment and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great day.